Hey guys, it's John Olympian Exotics here. We're going to do a video on spider ball pythons and spider genetics, Wobble, different genes that do really well with spider, the ethics of breeding spiders, and what else? Anything else I can possibly think of that has to do with spiders. So let's go ahead and just look at the snakes. Hey guys, so this guy right here is a butter inchy calico spider. Um, he is one of my productions, I believe 2 years ago. He's produced from this really weird, cool spider female I have to a butter inchy calico. So I got all the genes in there, and who knows what else she is carrying. I've been breeding her for about 5 years now. I got 3 clutches, always tiny clutches, but this one is really cool. So this was one of my holdbacks. Um, some people talk about the spider gene and they say that, oh, you can replace the effects with blah blah inchy and pinstripe, blah blah blah, other options. But in my personal opinion, you really can't. Um, Pretty much what a spider is a reduced patterning. The reason they're called spiders because they have these kind of spider webby lines that come through, um, and then it also has these white sides to it, usually much lower white than this. This is so high white because of the the butter, the inchy, calico, and the spider all push the white up in the spider combos. But calico and spider are the predominant ones that have the high increase in the white. So that's why this is such an exceptionally high white animal. So as you can see with this snake, it really doesn't have a lot of wobble. I would go as far to say it doesn't have noticeable wobble. Um, I have had many snakes, and what people characterize as wobble in a ball python, I believe it is to some extent readily common in many morphs. I've personally had probably around 2,000 ball pythons at this point, maybe. Probably about 500 of them have been spider combos because I really don't have a problem with spiders, especially if they're not severely impacted by the wobble. I have had several that have had severe wobble, but I wouldn't really recommend breeding those. I wouldn't go so far as to say don't breed them, simply from the fact that they're not my animals. Would I breed them? Probably not. Should I be able to tell someone else what they should do with their animals? I would say no, because I know I wouldn't want someone else telling me what to do with my animals. Um, and I think that's kind of how that whole ethical stance should be. If you wouldn't have a problem with someone else dictating to you what you are allowed to keep, what you're allowed to breed, what you're allowed to do with your animals, bottom line, that you personally purchased and that are legally yours and everything like that, then maybe if you're willing to give up that freedom, then I can see how you would hold that stance that it's unethical to breed wobbly snakes and therefore they should be illegal. But if you're not willing to give up that freedom that you personally possess for whatever animals, well, it can go beyond animals, frankly, but whatever thing that you like to do that someone else tells you is the wrong, you think that they should really be able to regulate that you are not allowed to do it if it isn't hurting anyone. Personally, I don't think it's hurting the animals either. Does this snake look to be suffering? To me, it doesn't. It looks nice and fat and healthy, and he is sired clutches. So I would say he's probably a pretty happy snake, frankly. Um, but we could go way in depth into the ethics and the philosophy of what is right and wrong, and if the animal is suffering, how would we even measure its ability to suffer or its degree of suffering? Um, do we think that the animal would rather be alive or dead? I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to, in my opinion. Um, and I think that typically with ball pythons, a great indicator of them being very unhappy and not doing very good is not eating. Um, and we can go into that with spider. So spider ball pythons typically eat pretty well. I have noticed when they first hatch out, some of them do need assist feeding. I can't necessarily say that that's the spider gene specifically, because I've had other ball python morphs and even normals that have needed assist feeding to start off. And then we can even get into the ethics of that. Is it ethical to start a ball python eating? Should I just let it die? Some people would say yes. I don't personally think so. But, you know, it's to each their own. Should there be regulation as to, oh, you should be forced to let the ones that aren't eating on their own starve to death? Or should you throw them in the freezer because they don't have that natural instinct initially out of the egg to eat? I would say no. I think that these are pets. I don't think that you would do the same with a dog. We, of course, nurse and make sure that puppies always, we do our best to make sure all the puppies make it, everything like that. Other species of animals, I don't think most people would say you should just let them die. But, that's to each their own. I personally think that I should be allowed to assist feed my animals if I want to, as long as it's not hurting them or anyone around them, or anyone in general. But yeah, so we covered that. Let's see, what else can we cover? Okay, other genes that have wobble. I personally haven't had too many experiences with other genes that have wobble. Super spot nose, I've definitely seen that have some degree of wobble. I don't think that every single super spot nose, just like I don't think that every single spider has wobble. I've seen hidden gene Roma spot nose having wobble as well. I had 3 of those. All 3 of them had pretty significant wobble. Definitely more than this guy. I had probably more than most of my spider combos. But they are eating. They did okay for me. What else can I say? Champagne combos. Some champagne combos have wobble. I haven't had single gene champagnes have wobble. I don't think I've really had any champagnes that have had wobble. Most of the time, if a champagne is going to be doubled up with something that would give it wobble, it usually just fails to thrive outright and just never makes it to the size that I would see it. For example, like super champagnes don't make it out of the egg. Spider champagnes don't make it out of the egg. What else? Sable champagnes. Sable spiders also can definitely have wobble. What else? I can't really think of any other things off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more. But if we're going into other genes that perhaps are unethical to breed, I would argue personally that super cinnamons and super black pastels are less ethical to breed than spiders, simply for the fact that they have very high rates of kinking. I know personally that I bred a pastel cinnamon champagne Mojave to a black pastel, so a black pewter, and I got 6 good eggs. They went full term. I went ahead and cut the eggs at day 60 because nobody had pipped, and every single one was severely kinked. Super disappointing. And I probably won't be doing that pairing again because that was very upsetting to find all of these awesome 8-ball champagne combos that just didn't make it. And I had to freeze them. So they were still alive and everything. They were just severely kinked. And theoretically, that could have been incubation issues, blah, blah, blah. But needless to say, I had many other clutches last year that did great, same incubator, and that one personally just had 0 success with. So when everybody is really excited about pandapides, and the reason pandapides have held their value so well is because probably about 80% of the pandapides fail to thrive, whether it be they have duck billing, which is basically a cleft palate. They have severe kinking to the point where they just literally can't survive out of the egg. Everything like that. That's why pandapides are still so expensive, even though it's a relatively simple gene. The same reason gray matters are expensive is because it's that super cinnamon or super black pastel in there, causing the odds to be so poor that the price of them is still high because of supply and demand, and people want these snakes that about 80% of just are failing to thrive out of the egg. And I mean, that's why they're expensive, is because they're hard to make healthy anyways. But yeah, to me, I really am not very motivated to go into that kind of a project just because of that. I really don't like it when I have a egg go full term and then you cut the egg, or the egg hatches and then the snake is just in bad shape. That's definitely very disheartening for me. But let's get on to a new topic. Let's see. What else to talk about? Okay, so spider wobble. What causes spider wobble? Well, there really isn't any research done beyond what breeders have done to help determine that. A lot of people believe it's a neurological issue. It demonstrates as a muscle control issue. So basically, at the front end of the neck, there's a lack of muscle control. This guy has plenty of muscle control. I really don't see any evidence of wobble in this snake at all. He's very strong, a very healthy guy. But what they will do is, if it did have wobble, it would be like, I can't even make it do it, but it would wiggle its head, it would lose control of its neck, it would be spinning around. They can also have corkscrewing, which is where they kind of spin over onto their back. If people haven't done their research and then they Google corkscrewing and ball pythons or wobble and ball pythons, a lot of time they'll find information about IBD, and then they'll freak out thinking that their snake has this terminal illness that's highly contagious and untreatable. But fortunately, spiders, while they are weird sometimes, I just flipped him over, so that's kind of my fault. While they sometimes have funny behaviors, they do not fail to thrive. Okay, so this one is a pastel spider, leopard, orange dream, banana. I believe that's it. So pastel spider, leopard, orange dream, banana. So 5 gene snake. I also produced the one with lesser in it, which would be a 6. But as you can see, not particularly bad wobble. I would say this one probably exhibits some of the wobble features, but in general, not bad wobble. So let's go, running away. Okay, let's go over a little bit of husbandry. All pythons in general do much better in rack systems, in my experience, than in tanks. Makes it more practical for breeders, as well as just more accurate temperatures, less stress to the animal. Ball pythons really do enjoy being in tight enclosures, or not necessarily the whole enclosure. You could have a big enclosure if you want to, but you have to have a lot of hides so that way they can feel safe. They don't like being exposed. You can see this guy is not very happy right now because he's exposed. Actually, it's she, but you can see she's a little stressed out. She is not a happy snake right now. She's trying to hide. She just is not having a very great time. She's actually a little striky, but not bad. Some people say spider ball pythons don't strike. That's not true. They'll definitely strike at you if they're scared. They'll also strike at you if they think you're food. But generally speaking, they are relatively relaxed animals in my experience. So very much, if you're going to keep them in a rack, I would suggest keeping it pretty basic. They can miss when striking. They can get a mouthful of bedding if you're using Aspen or Carefresh or Cocoa Chip even. I do use Cocoa Chip with some of my spiders. Ones that I've noticed don't have issues. Some ball pythons are a lot smarter than others. Some are a lot more careless with striking. Some will do all sorts of crazy stuff that you wouldn't anticipate. I've had one eat the whole paper towel that I put in as the paper, like this newspaper. They ate the whole thing in the process of eating a rat before, and then they regurgitated it. Fortunately, they were okay, but crazy stuff can happen with snakes. It's not necessarily your fault, but we can definitely take steps to make sure that it's less likely. So, what else can we talk about? Okay, so for an adult spider ball python, personally I would recommend either 32 quart or a 41 quart in a snake rack. It's equivalent to a V70. Would be like a 41 quart if you were going with the higher end brands and stuff like that. but a 41 quart sweater bin. So the ones that you can get from Walmart, they're like about 34 inches long by 17 inches wide, I believe, by about 6 inches tall or 5 inches tall, something like that. That gives them a nice flat, large area to move around in. They don't feel like there's a big ceiling where something can jump down and grab them. That's pretty much why ball pythons like hiding in little spots, is because then they feel secure. They don't feel like a predator can come and get them. It tends to manifest as eating more consistently, generally better health. What else? Usually more relaxed in handling, and just a generally happier snake. Some people believe that rack systems are bad and unethical for ball pythons. Personally, I do not believe that. I've only about the first year of keeping ball pythons that I used tanks, and I did get my first clutch of eggs in a tank. But in my experience, for one, it takes up way more space. Two, the snake is just hiding all the time if they have the opportunity. They really don't want to be in that open area. Three, hard to hold temperatures. Four, also humidity is a problem because of the screen. Glass does not hold. It's literally a conductive material. That's why we use it for all sorts of kitchenware things. It conducts heat. So trying to retain heat in an enclosure, a glass tank, is really not ideal. Obviously, the mesh top on top of the tank is going to let all the heat right out the top, so that's not really ideal either. So in terms of efficiency, as well as keeping humidity high, tanks are really not ideal, particularly for spider ball pythons. I actually did sell an adult female that was proven and doing pretty solid for me. Did have a significant wobble, but I sold it to what I believe to be a friend of mine, and they would refuse to feed it live because they had pet rats. So I think it went about 6 months without eating. She would just keep offering it frozen rats, frozen thawed rats, and it just would not eat them. So some people believe that spider ball pythons should only get frozen thawed rats. Some of them will not eat those. You have to give them what they will eat. You could try pre-killed. Sometimes they'll do that. But bottom line, the morphology of a snake does not dictate what it can eat. Its ability to do it consistently is what should dictate what it eats. What else can I say on that? Yes, a rat can bite a snake and hurt it when it's getting constricted by the snake. That is definitely something that you have to worry about with live feeding. You can also get bad rats when you're getting frozen rats because you have no idea how long they were dead before they were frozen. You have no idea if they thawed out before you purchased them and have been sitting in a car for 2 days. You don't know. Generally, frozen rats don't smell particularly good. They could have been in the freezer for 6 months before you purchased them. They could have had the freezer fail and then they plug it back in or whatever. You don't know. You can get rats that are bad and they can kill your snakes from frozen thawed. So to say that frozen thawed is the ideal thing to feed to animals, blah, 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 I don't think that's true. I don't feed any of my ball pythons frozen rats unless they're like really big adult females that will just eat anything I wave in front of them. Typically, I just give them pre-killed as I retire my breeders, or if I have rats that have an issue, then I'll just pre-kill them and give them to those big ones, just because I think that large and jumbo rats have massive teeth and they can puncture the scales of a ball python easily. The reason that I do that is just because those snakes are going to eat the rat regardless of if it's alive or dead. I have a lot of ball pythons that will only eat live, and that's okay with me. I breed my own rodents for the most part. We also buy mice, but for the most part, it's not an issue. The snakes, I have very few that have injuries from rats. I would say maybe 1%. The primary places that you'll find that actually have issues from rat bites are pretty much exclusively the face. If you don't clean a wound after it gets a rat bite, then you can definitely get abscesses and stuff like that, other parts of the body. But typically they are not life-threatening. Pretty much, in my experience, the life-threatening issues are when the rat bites the snake in the mouth or in the lip or in the jaw, stuff like that, where it can get abscessed and or it can actually break the jaw. And those are a serious problem that you have to treat. But that's pretty rare. Don't think it really. I have one spider that has that issue. I've had her for 7 years. She still eats despite the fact that she had a broken lower jaw. I'm not sure if it was caused by the rat or perhaps she striked at the rat or at something and broke her jaw. It happens with ball pythons, especially if you have hundreds of them. Typically, snakes are pretty durable when it comes to physical injuries. What you typically really have to worry about are more of infectious issues, so such as respiratory infections, nidovirus, IBD, mite, blood infections from mites, stuff like that. Those are things that ball pythons really, or snakes in general, really don't have the defenses for because they're, it's an immune system. It's only going to be capable of defending against what it is. But physical injuries, ball pythons, and snakes in general are very good at recovering from. I've seen a lot of really damaged snakes bounce back just from physical injuries. Infectious illnesses, stuff like that, pathogens I should call it, are a less, maybe 70-80% success rate, especially with treatment. If there's no treatment, the percentage goes down considerably. But anyhow, let's get back on topic of spider ball pythons. I kind of just went on a rant there with everything. Obviously, you can make some amazing combos with spider ball pythons. You cannot replicate these with other genes. For example, orange dream, leopard, spider, you get this super reduced pattern down the back. You can see there's almost no pattern left from where the orange dream and leopard are kind of fighting it out, blowing apart that pattern. And I'm sorry that my video has gone super fuzzy. It's getting dark out, and we're just using the light from the window, basically. But, yeah. So, that's a really cool combo. I'm holding back for future breeding. I'm going to breed the spider. My opinion is I love the gene. If you don't feel comfortable with it, I strongly would recommend that you don't breed the gene. Nobody's forcing anyone to breed ball pythons or spiders. It's completely up to you. I think that you should be able to breed whatever species of snake or whatever morph of snake you can possibly have. I think you should be able to breed pretty much any species of animal that you want, as long as you make sure it doesn't hurt any people. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to. Okay, stay in the bin. But let's show you another cool combo. So this is one of my favorites that I have produced. Don't mind my dirty pants. I was planting trees today. Okay, so this girl right here is one of my oldest productions. This is a pastel calico spider. Could be yellow belly, could be okay, come on video, don't be like that. Or why are you being like that now? Come on. There we go. Okay, so this girl right here is a pastel calico spider, possible inchy, possible yellow belly. That was from a pastel calico yellow belly to a my crazy spider. Oh, we got a snake running, trying to escape me. How dare you? Okay, you stay in there, expensive snake. But yeah, look at my little paper towel in the background. Very pretty. Anyhow, yes, so this snake right here, she does have Wobble. I had to assist feed this one when she first hatched out. What was it, 6 years ago? Since then, she's been a great eater. I haven't had any issues with her. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay. She is proven. I just love the white coming up the sides. You just can't replicate this white with another gene. You just can't. So I think that it is totally a... Come on. Okay, don't go underneath the seat. What are you doing? Get right here. There we go. Okay. Well, as you can see, she's fully capable of doing all sorts of stuff. She's not too crazy. Um, she is. I've been feeding her live for the last 6 years, and you can see she is in good shape. She has not suffered any injuries, despite her having the spider gene and having some degree of wobble. I would say mid to mild case of wobble on this snake. She's not showing anything because she's not stressed out. Um, okay, come on. Don't do that. Okay. Well, it's kind of good, I guess. But yeah. She is one of my favorites. I don't know what I'm going to pair her to this year. I'm going to try to fatten her up a little bit more before I pair her up, but I just love the reduced pattern. So, yeah, I don't know what's in here. I've got a couple clutches from her, but still haven't figured it out because I keep putting more genes into it. I don't really try to breed it out. I kind of just keep adding more stuff because I think it's cool. Am I aiming for spider combos? When I breed spider females to things, spider combo females, typically I try to pick snakes that I think if they do get the spider, they'll still be awesome snakes. I want all my combos to be nicer than what I started with. So with this girl, I think what did I do? Who did I pair to this one? I think I put Orange Dream combos to this one before. I don't think I hit anything last year when I had something to pair to her. I did do the high intensity Orange Dream, but I think her clutch ended up not making it because it was only like 2 eggs. For some reason, she does not give me big clutches. Neither does her mom, so that's probably why. But I just think they're awesome, so I keep them anyway. It's not all about making money. Sometimes it's just about having awesome snakes that hopefully pay for themselves sometimes. But anyhow, yeah, when breeding spiders, you don't want to breed spider to spider. Spider to spider, usually it's a co-dominant gene, so 1 in 4 will be super spiders, and super spiders don't make it out of the egg almost ever. They don't look any different if they do, so you wouldn't really know. But like 99% of the time they fail to thrive, so it's just kind of a waste. So you'll probably just get a couple of infertile or fertile eggs that just go bad. That's probably a super spider if you did a spider to spider pairing. You can still get perfectly healthy snakes out of a spider to spider pairing, but it's just kind of a waste of that 1 in 4. So if you just account for 1 in 4 of your eggs going bad, you probably could make a better pairing rather than do spider to spider. Even if there are some awesome genes in there that you could be producing other than the spiders. When I first started out, Pastel Spider was like really cool. It's called Bumblebees. And I always wanted one of those, so then I got one. And then, it was Calico Spiders. I still love Calico Spiders. I think that's one of the genes that really Spider and Calico work excellent together. Even just Calico Spiders, if it's a high white, it's an exceptionally beautiful looking animal, and they're not too expensive. If you're going to go and aim for stuff that's more expensive, there are a lot of times Spider will actually take away from the value, just because a lot of the breeders that are going for more high-end animals don't really want to work with the Spider gene because of the stigma attached to it. I can understand that. And that's okay, because they're someone else. They're not me, and they're allowed to have their own opinion on that, especially if they're doing it as a business model. Some people don't even want to buy from breeders that breed spider because they think it's unethical, and that's their choice too. You have to accept that other people aren't always going to agree with you. That's just part of the business. That's part of life. And that's okay too. But I think that they're an amazing animal. A lot of times, see there, she's like a little wild to correct herself. That's a little bit of the wobble indicator right there. But what was I gonna say? Let's see. What was I gonna say here? Spiders, in general, are pretty good eaters. Typically, once they're started anyway, they eat pretty consistently. I may have gone over that already. I'm not sure. I'll have to rewatch the video and see. But I do feed live. They usually do better on live in my experience. I haven't really had a lot of experience feeding frozen thawed to any of my snakes, just because I've always had access to live rodents. And for me personally, it's a much more efficient system because I can just drop a live mouse in there or a live rat in there and then go through all the snakes, drop live rats in. Then 10 minutes later, come back through, pull out any of the live rats that are still left, and then all the ones that are dead are actually going to a snake rather than just rotting in a bin or having to be thrown away or refrozen. I don't refreeze rodents if I ever fed frozen thawed. I don't refreeze them because it takes a while to thaw them out. I don't even really like feeding off frozen rodents, frankly, and because then you already know that there's probably at least 10 hours of thawing and stuff like that involved. While they're thawing, they grow bacteria and whatever else is inside of the gut of the mouse or the rodent. The body is decomposing in that time. Snakes are not designed to eat frozen thawed rodents. They are designed to eat live rodents. That's why they are constrictors. They're not scavengers. They are predators. I don't have a problem with people feeding frozen, but I don't think that that should be what everyone thinks that you should do. Because frankly, it's unnatural to the snake to feed it frozen thawed. I think it can be beneficial to snakes for sure. Obviously, people are kind of scared of mice and maybe feel bad about letting the snake kill the mouse or watching the snake kill the mouse, so they would rather have someone in a facility gas all the mice and then put them in little Ziploc bags to make it feel like it's more like a meat market, I guess. Personally, I think that kind of if you're gonna own a snake and feed it rodents, you should kind of be okay with the idea of mice dying for that purpose, because they are, regardless of if you see it or not. I think that people who talk about enrichment, I think that, frankly, that's part of their natural behavior. So if you're pro enrichment, then you should probably be okay with feeding live, just because of the fact that that's what they do. That's literally one of their primary functions, is to constrict prey and then eat them right after that, not have a little mouse dangled to them and then constrict it. But that's kind of getting off the point. But anyhow, yeah. So I don't think that feeding spiders frozen thawed exclusively is necessary, especially if they don't have a severe wobble, especially if they don't seem to have an issue grabbing a live rat without being injured any more than a normal ball python would. Okay, so I've heard some rumors about blackhead actually eliminating the wobble in spiders. I can't speak to that at all. I have no experience pairing a blackhead to a spider. I have never owned a blackhead spider. I believe I've been told that blackhead spiders typically look like normals, and then if you breed them, then they'll produce blackheads and spiders. I can't speak to that, but it is an interesting idea, and I have no idea why that would happen or any of the information revolving around that. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's just a rumor. There's a lot of rumors when it comes to spiders, saying that they're suffering and that they have these issues. I mean, I have spiders that have no symptoms of wobble. The causation of wobble is still fully unresearched, pretty much, except for the fact that we know that it's connected to spider, that other genes can have it. You also have to keep in mind that wobble can be caused by other things besides spider genes. So if your snake has IBD, it will have wobble. If your snake has some respiratory infections, can illustrate as a wobble as a symptom, simply because the snake is going to aim its head straight up and trying to breathe. They're trying to keep their nostrils open and their lungs open, so they're kind of trying to get the saliva to go away from their airways. What else? Stressors definitely can bring out more wobble symptoms. They can bring out wobble symptoms than even a normal ball python. Overheating can cause Wobble, because it basically is cooking their brain. Like, just like if a human gets a really bad temperature, they have to ice pack them, because you can cause brain damage from overheating in a snake, just like you can in a person, just like you can in any animal. The brains of these animals is only built to handle a certain temperature, and after that, it causes the brain to start to break down and fall apart. And brain damage can cause all sorts of problems. It can cause death. It can cause wobble. It can cause, all paralysis. It can cause seizures. Um, can cause all sorts of things. So you have to keep in mind with that. So if a snake is having wobble and it doesn't have any of these genes, it could be a pathogen. It could be that it overheated. It could be that it was exposed to a pesticide or a chemical that could cause neurological damage. Um, there's many reasons that your animal could have wobble if it doesn't have spider or another gene that has been found to have wobble, like super spot nose or a champagne spot nose or a champagne spider, whatever, all sorts of different combinations. Um, what else can I say on that? I do have snakes. I have one snake that's a pastel cinnamon spot nose. What is it? Pastel cinnamon spot nose. One more gene in there. It's not spider. What was it? Pastel cinnamon spot nose. Was it lesser? Anyhow, it has wobble. It has the worst wobble I've ever had in a ball python, actually. It still eats live weaned rats. It could eat bigger rats, but if you're going to feed live to a snake that has wobble, try feeding smaller meals. For one, the rodents have smaller teeth. They can do less damage. Two, it's a lot easier for the snake to get down a smaller meal. What else? Yeah, so that's what I do typically with my spiders or ball pythons that have any kind of issue, is feed smaller meals. It doesn't mean tiny meals. It just means maybe a step down. So like this snake could take a large rat if I wanted to. I'd never feed it large rats. I'd say I feed it small to medium rats. On the bigger end of a medium rat, I would say, or a bigger end of a small rat. I don't really like wasting rats by feeding really small meals. Also on that regard, only feed your snake like one rodent at a time. In my experience, that's the best way to do it. If you feed them too many small rodents, then they will regurgitate, and that puts a great deal of stress on the animal, as well as you just threw away like 3 little rodents because you overfed your snake and it couldn't handle it. Okay, she's like hooked in there down there. Okay, anyhow. I don't know if I've covered everything. I might have to do a follow-up video. I feel like I've just rambled on about a bunch of different things. The spider wobble topic and spider in general is very hotly debated, and a lot of people are very passionate about what they believe is the right thing to do. I think that ultimately the right thing for everyone is to respect each other's opinions and allow each other to do what we believe is the thing that we think we should do. We are a reptile community. In general, we are seen as unusual people. There is a lot of legislation already on the books to try to regulate the industry and the hobby and to make it harder for reptile people to keep their animals. I don't think that we need to be encouraging regulation of things that really are kind of insignificant, in my opinion, compared to the degree of legislation that's already being implemented by various government entities, the federal government, the state governments, trying to prevent us from keeping animals for what many of us know to believe to be kind of fictitious grounds. I know in Florida right now, they've already passed the laws that are pretty much eliminating the ownership of iguanas and tegus. They're also going for many other species of monitors on the grounds that they're an invasive species or invasive animals or destructive animals. So they're basically just trying to ban them outright, not regulate. They're trying to ban it. So instead of being able to go get a permit from the state, like I do, to have this animal. I have a Class 3 license that allows me to sell and keep exotic animals that aren't regulated heavier than that. They want to just straight up ban it. So even if I have that Class 3 and I have the enclosures and the fencing and all of the fun things that they can add on to regulate that species, it doesn't matter. You just can't own it anymore, even if you're just as capable as a zoo, pretty much. They're also doing that. They've already done that for yellow anacondas, green anacondas. I believe they've straight up banned them. Obviously, they're not really going after ball pythons at this point, but doesn't mean that they won't be, or that they couldn't be, or that it's any more irresponsible to own a yellow anaconda than it is a ball python. Yellow anacondas max out at about 6 to 10 feet, I believe. They're about the same size as a boa constrictor and full grown. Green anacondas get quite a bit bigger, but the fact that it's called an anaconda is enough for the government to say, oh, that's the same as green anaconda. Let's just eliminate it completely. They have several other species of pythons on there that are also, I believe, eliminated or at least heavily regulated, that couldn't survive in Florida environment. There is no research to support the concept that they would live through the winter. I know I had a bunch of rats freeze in the winter here. If a rat can't live here, then why do you think a tropical species of exotic animal would survive the winters? But they're passing these laws and bans and all sorts of stuff like that throughout the country. I don't think that we need to be trying to implement or propose our own legislation on things as trivial as this snake might be unethical to keep. But yeah, I think that I covered most of the topics. So hope you guys enjoyed watching. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to my rants. Check out OlympianExotics.com for all your spider ball pythons, and have a great day.